Do you watch far too many cartoons to the point where even your parents are concerned? Are you completely unable to distinguish what's real and what's fake, therefore you fill your time chatting to AI bots as opposed to humans? Are you absolutely disgusted by saliva and can't stand to watch any individual sing due to your very unusual phobia? Well, it seems like you need to start listening to virtual bands. A virtual band is a band whose members are not depicted as the actual musicians behind the music, but as animated or virtual characters. Although these characters are often depicted as making the music, that would literally be impossible, apart from in some cases with AI. The music is created by individuals behind the scenes, who are probably eternally vexed that their passion, craft and creation is being credited to a bunch of drawings that are inevitably going to end up in Rule 34. The final product is then presented as being written and created by these literal pixels and drawings. The promotion of this music is entirely focused on these characters, usually creating a unique experience for the consumer, because obviously this is more interesting to look at than this, not to mention a lot less disgusting. The musical style of virtual bands obviously have a ridiculous range in terms of genre and overall theme. This ranges from vibrant pop music with stylings of hip hop and rock, to generic jazz with pitch-shifted vocals, to whatever the f this is. Something else worth mentioning before we dive into examples is the way in which these artists are able to perform on stage. How do drawings, ones and zeros, pixels, literal pencil shavings step on stage and perform for their fans? Well, this has been done in a variety of ways, ranging from the actual musicians behind the music playing the songs with screens in the background, to literal holograms making it appear like said cartoons are actually performing the songs. Regardless of the method of performance, the venues literally always, 100% of the time, smell like onions. So how did this happen? What kind of dystopian hellscape do we live in that we allow cartoons and drawings to be famous musicians, with people literally basing their personalities around these drawings? Be patient, for f***'s sake, I'm about to tell you. In order to tell the full story, we need to go back to 1958, to the creation of some very familiar and equally hated characters. Alvin and the Chipmunks. Although you may just be aware of this band through the abhorrent films and whatever the f this abomination is, they have a much deeper history and influence than you may be aware, and were celebrated to a surprising degree during their initial explosion. After the success of the song Witch Doctor, which had elements of pitch-shifted vocals, creator Ross Bagdasarian was tasked with the creation of another novelty record, specifically for the Christmas season. This would result in 3 cartoon chipmunks with high-pitched voices singing about Christmas. Somehow this catapulted the trio to success, with the song spending 4 weeks at #1 in the US. The song also earned them a Grammy somehow. Although pitch-shifted vocals are very easy to achieve in the modern day, at the time it involved a lot more effort. Essentially, the original vocals were recorded on half the normal tape speed, meaning when it was played back at a normal speed it was an octave higher. The success of the Chipmunks would be incredibly influential, and although it meant that this and this had to happen, it also showed the industry that there was a market for this kind of degeneracy, which led to a few copycats in the short term. One of which is the Nutty Squirrels, which is the exact same thing except generic jazz as opposed to pop. The idea would be attempted again in 1968, however would focus on the television aspect of the medium as opposed to selling copious amounts of chipmunk themed records. This would be first attempted with the Banana Splits, a fictional rock band composed of anthropomorphic creatures. The show would become successful, but the music failed to reach any real success outside the context of the show. I just wanted to conclude them because Jesus Christ, look at them. I really do hate some of the research I have to do for you guys. Also, a quick fact, the lead singer behind the scenes of the Banana Splits would actually go on to record with Frank Zappa. During the late 60s, the idea of a virtual band was something known to mainly just America through the Chipmunks, and it hadn't become something globally recognised as of yet. That's right, there are 0 Bolivian farmers bumping the Banana Splits. That wouldn't last long, as 1969 would bring a virtual band that would become truly global. The Archies were a fully animated band featuring the comic character aptly named Archie, who had been featured in comics since 1941. The band would be inspired by the television series The Monkees, which featured a fictional band, although these guys were fully flesh and bone as opposed to ink on a page. Although fictional and created for television, the Monkees still used real musicians and actually used their real names, which caused disputes with management. Essentially, the manager got sick of dealing with real people, so thought feed it cartoon time, and created a fictional band that he could micromanage to his heart's content. If any musicians complained, feed it, they can be replaced. As long as there are animators to underpay, the Archies will continue. Let's look at the actual music and impact of it. The Archies would explode into the music scene with the song Sugar Sugar, which would place in the top 10 in pretty much every country that had charts around the globe, and for the most part remained there for around 8 weeks. The song became the apotheosis of the bubblegum pop era, and it really proves that studio concoctions made up of hired professionals with the illicit goal to make as much money as humanly possible really appeals to the masses. And with that mediocrity behind us, we are left with a sizable gap in time, at least in the West. Japan were feeding around with virtual idols and other random weird looks throughout the 80s. Let's ignore Japan and take a very short but cursed trip to Russia. Dvar kind of twists and morphs the idea of a virtual band. The group has remained anonymous and extremely mysterious since 1995, releasing plenty of pretty epic darkwave albums alongside that. The band consists of 3 virtual members who look like this. According to the members, the music is presented to them by a being known as Devar, which is theorised to be a giant bee. The vocals in the songs also appear to be a constructed language invented by the creators, a lot of which. I know this doesn't fit the virtual band concept as much, and this is very obscure unless you're Russian. I just wanted to add some weird ones so this video isn't just me creaming over Gorillaz for 10 minutes straight. Speaking of Gorillaz. This cheeky little alongside this equally cheeky will be sat in their prime London real estate watching MTV. Whilst watching this programme and the music within it, they noticed how manufactured it was, likening it to a hellscape. So they came up with the idea to do the exact same thing but on purpose. The project will combine the musical brain of Alvin and the artistic stylings of Hewlett, creating something that receives as much praise for its lore and story as it does for its music. Speaking of music, it's pretty damn good. Under the veil of a virtual band, Alvin is able to explore musical stylings outside of the Britpop sphere he was known for under Blur. The band is able to combine hip-hop, electronic, Latin and punk, and that's just on the first album. As time has progressed, both the music and the story has become stranger and stranger until that stopped and it just got a little bit underwhelming, but we don't talk about that here. Honestly, whoever made these motherfuckers 3D needs a good talking to. I despise this. Gorillaz is by far the most successful of any of the virtual bands mentioned in this video, which makes a lot of sense. Both the individuals involved in the project's creation were already successful within their respective industries. It wasn't some slimy suit-wearing trying to make money off music without having to deal with musicians. This made Gorillaz a project that empowers creativity over anything else, really taking the limitless features of a virtual band and running with it as far as they can go, maybe a little bit too far sometimes. Although Gorillaz kind of blows any other similar idea out of the water, it has still continued to be a popular thing, and would you believe it? It has become a corporate tactic to make money once again. In 2003, World of Warcraft would create a virtual rock band named Elite Tauren Chieftain. Cringe, but not too bad. At least they were just confined within the game. But wait for it, this is the ultra cringe. League of Legends would create a virtual metal band consisting of 6 of the game's characters, releasing 3 full-length albums since 2014. You may think that's the worst it can get. Nope. Pentakill will be followed by KDA, a K-pop group featuring League of Legends characters, which has 3 million monthly listeners on Spotify. I wish I could follow that up with something positive. Unfortunately, most modern virtual bands outside of the Gorillaz are either boring or disgustingly terrible, so I'd rather talk about the latter. 2022 would see the first virtual artist whose music was actually written by AI. This whole thing crashed and burned after TikTok found out the virtual rapper, who was designed to look like a black cyborg, was designed by a white person, resulting in the artist being dropped from Capitol Records. Ignoring the whole race thing, I think this is a pretty awful and unethical idea to begin with. Imagine being an upcoming artist and watching this thing spitting ChatGPT bars being signed to a major label. Before you comment, what about Vocaloids, what about Hatsune Miku? There is so much information on the origin of virtual icons in Japan that it would warrant its own video, so if anything it will be its own video. Honestly, I see virtual bands as, for the most part, a missed opportunity. In rare cases, it's done perfectly, creating a project that melds media and gives fans so many interesting things to explore. For the most part, this doesn't happen. It appears most people within this industry see this as a way to be involved in a successful musical act without having to deal with the real musicians. They can just design the most brand-friendly, white mother-appealing band with zero chance of problems or any public meltdown. In all honesty, I don't think it's possible to top what Gorillaz have been able to do. Like, regardless of what you may think of the music, this dude literally grows to the size of an island and floats about, whilst this beat is replaced by a cyborg and guns down people on a boat, and that's just one music video. You can't really argue with that.